Effective accelerationism. Have you seen this? Have you heard about this? You might have heard this term, or the shorthand E-ACC, bandied about on Twitter in the past few years. You might have seen people like Elon Musk or Marc Andreeson or Sam Altman refer to this or retweet the memes. You might have even seen Guillaume Verdon,
Gil,
aka Basedbeffjezos, on a recent episode of the Lex Fridman podcast. And you might be wondering, what the fuck are these people talking about, and why should I care? Well, I'm going to try to lay out what exactly I understand effective accelerationism to be, why I like it so much, and why you should care. So, E-ACC emerged as a mimetic response to the anti-AI coalition, or the anti-AGI coalition of effective altruists, still known as EA. You might have heard of effective altruism associated with such renowned altruist as Sam Bankman-Fried, who famously donated a bunch of other people's money to his own hedge fund. And big pieces of this EA movement were anti-AI. They were saying, look, the risk versus reward here doesn't add up. If we build AGI, there's a chance it kills us all. And so we should curtail or at least control that growth in conjunction with the government and regulations, and have, a few big players control this industry. But EA wasn't the only movement calling for things to slow down. We had people like the degrowthers from the environmental left saying that if we continue to grow, we are going to outpace the planet's ability to sustain us. We are going to destroy the environment. We're going to run out of resources. We're going to increase inequality, and eventually we are going to be left with nothing. There were also the just plain AI doomers who have sort of been around in various forms with new technologies forever, and these people are saying, yeah, AI is going to kill us all. Also, it's going to, before that, replace all of our jobs and destroy the economy for everyone but a few rich people. And all of these ideas were circulating at a time when effective accelerationism came to be. And E-ACC comes around and says, no, fuck all that. We want to grow faster. We want more economic growth. We want more technology. We want more powerful computers, stronger AI. We want more. We want faster, right? We want to accelerate. And you may be hearing that and thinking, well, that's crazy. That's reckless, right? How could they discount all of these huge potential risks and say, fuck it, let's ride it out. Let's go faster. How can they possibly think that that's a good idea? Well, I think the argument for why that's a good idea is pretty airtight. That's what I'm going to try to lay out. So first things first, effective accelerationists believe that the laws of thermodynamics favor the emergence and growth and complexification of life. Now, why would they think that, right? There's an idea that is kind of floating around that life might be anti-entropic because life takes free energy and converts it into orderly structures. But that's only true if you look at life as a closed system. But life is part of an open system. It's part of the universe. And while life is doing all of this order making and structure making, it's dissipating a ton of heat. So people like Eric Smith and Harold Morowitz and now Jeremy England, they want to talk about how life arises naturally. It's an emergent property of the thermodynamic drive of the universe to dissipate energy. So like Smith and Morowitz, for example, they talk about how on Earth there are these huge gradients, these huge differences in the chemical potential energy at certain junctures, like in the interface between the rock layer and the water layer that is at the bottom of the ocean. There's these huge difference in charges, and that energy wants to flow, much in the way the electrons in a cloud want to flow to the ground when there's a huge difference in charges, and that's why you get lightning strikes. So you have these differences in charges, this energy gradient between layers of the Earth, and the law of thermodynamics says that that energy wants to get dissipated, right? When there's that huge difference in charges in the potential energy right next to each other, something's going to happen. Something's got to give. And what ends up happening is that tendency for energy to flow selects for structures that allow the energy to flow. So I'm going to read a quote from Smith and Morowitz that kind of breaks this down. And they say, "Our contention is that despite the remarkable complexity of living order, the aggregate function of the biosphere is a simple one. It opens a channel for energy flow through the domain of organic chemistry that would otherwise be inaccessible to planetary processes. It is analogous to a lightning strike through the graph of chemical possibilities, producing a channel that is stable at the system level, but heterogeneous and far from equilibrium when viewed locally." So in this view, life is sort of this release valve when you have free energy stuck in one place and a place where that energy can go, right? Like imagine there was a really hot ball of metal in a big cup of ice water, but for some reason the heat couldn't escape the ball into the ice water. Well, life is what creates the channel for that energy to flow. And when you think about what life is doing, it is capturing free energy and it's using it, right, to grow, to multiply. And in that process, it's releasing really disordered energy in the form of infrared radiation as heat. And so what we see in complex life is that it's way better at doing this. So think about maybe those, bacteria at the bottom of the ocean, those chemosynthetic bacteria. They're pretty good. They're decent at letting that energy flow, but an elephant is much better at it because it's part of a trophic system where it eats plants which capture the energy and store it, and then it moves around, and an elephant releases way more heat than a plant per unit of energy utilized. And then you look at what humans are doing, and humans are like the best at this, right? We find these huge pockets of free energy, right, in the form of coal or petroleum or natural gas or uranium, and we extract it from the earth where otherwise it would have sat for millions of years, and we create a channel for it to flow in our society in this what effective accelerationists and techno-optimists would call the Homo techno-capital mimetic machine, right? So this giant machine that is this superorganism that is society is finding pockets of free energy, extracting them, and dissipating a ton of that energy as heat. So we are serving the universe's thermodynamic imperative, and it in turn creates and serves us. So according to this framework, the universe actually favors growth. As far as life is concerned, the thermodynamic imperative says that life is more stable when it grows, right? We are not a crystal in space the way a diamond is, so we're not statically stable. We are more like a crystal in time. We're dynamically stable. So the laws of thermodynamics encourage growth. They encourage life to accelerate its ability to utilize free energy to ascend the Kardashev scale. Now, what that means to E-ACC people, to techno-optimists, is that the universe is amenable to growth for humanity. The universe wants us to expand, right? Our mission, our destiny is not to sit here and sort of be the stewards of declining resources. Our destiny is to expand, to conquer the stars, to conquer the universe, to use more and more energy to continue to grow and extend ourselves. And okay, great, right? The basic structure of reality wants us to grow. So what? Why should we care about this sort of cosmic manifest destiny, right? Maybe this newfangled eschatology is not self-justifying. It's not an argument that we should do it. It's just an argument that that's sort of like the way things tend to go. So maybe that's not very convincing to you. Okay, so now I'm going to lay into why this is good for us. And to do that, I'm going to have to tackle some
objections, some of the alternative narratives as to what we are and what our mission is. And I'm going to start with the sort of degrowth or spaceship Earth sustainability hypothesis that what we're here to do is to preserve this beautiful gift of the climate and the Earth and the way things are right now. We have to preserve that because that is uniquely suited to human beings. The current ecosystem is sustaining us in a way that no other ecosystem could. Well, first of all, the ecosystem is not sustaining us. We are sustaining ourselves by extracting utility from the ecosystem. The ecosystem is indifferent to us, and a lot of facets of it are trying to kill us. And in fact, in most places that human beings live, we are not uniquely suited for those circumstances. I mean, just ask anybody that lives in northern Canada how uniquely suited their bodies are to the winter. No, it's the technology that we've created using knowledge that allows us to inhabit all of these different ecosystems. The ecosystem is not sustaining us. We're sustaining ourselves. Of course, there are aspects of the ecosystem of the climate that we'd like to preserve or control for economic reasons or for aesthetic reasons, which are also valid. Whatever helps us accelerate, E-ACC is okay with that. And there are technological solutions to these problems, so we don't have to slow our development. We can use technologies like carbon capture. We can use clean energy sources like nuclear, like renewables. We can do all of these things and still be accelerating and still be helping the climate. So this isn't an and or, this isn't a decision between growth and the preservation of beauty and of economic utility in the climate. That's a false dichotomy. Okay, but what about resources, right? What if we run out of resources by accelerating our techno-capital development? What if we extract too much and we're left with nothing more to grow from? And that objection fundamentally misunderstands what resources are. They think that resources are things that are out there waiting to be extracted. But in fact, resources are the confluence of, yes, something that exists out there, and also our knowledge of how to utilize it. So if you think about, let's say 200 years ago, uranium was not a resource. In fact, a lot of the things we used to produce energy were not resources because the knowledge to utilize it didn't exist. So they might have thought, like, as far as resources that produce energy go, you had like wood and coal and like whale oil and camphene. You didn't have uranium, not even natural gas. When they would drill for oil, they would just vent out the natural gas. They're like, let's get rid of that shit. That's useless gas. Now we can utilize that natural gas. So now natural gas is a resource. And if we discover fusion, hydrogen, the entire ocean is going to be a resource capable of producing energy. So the idea that resources are finite is a misconception about the nature of resources and the nature of knowledge. So on the subject of knowledge, let's talk about that doomerism, that what if we build the AGI that replaces us or kills us all or whatever objection, right? What if we pull an Oppenheimer and become death, the destroyer of worlds? And that is a reasonable objection in one sense, but in another sense, it isn't, because it doesn't understand trade-offs. It only asks us about the potential negative effects of creating a new technology. It doesn't account for the opportunity costs of not pursuing that area of knowledge. So on the subject of AI, all of the drugs that we won't develop, all of the new materials that we won't discover, all of the lives saved by these technological developments that won't be saved if we don't develop AI are the opportunity cost. And so you can say, well, there's a X% chance, nobody actually knows, but they make up these P-Doom. There's an X% chance that it kills us all. Well, if we don't do it, there is a certainty that lives will be lost because of the opportunity costs. Additionally, there are dangers that we haven't foreseen that are true existential dangers that we will need the ability to mobilize technology in order to confront. We will need new and fundamental knowledge in order to confront. And so if we hamstring ourselves now by cutting off our growth of knowledge in any given direction, what we're doing is we're opening up the possibility that something, right, say a new pandemic or a solar flare or an asteroid strike or an alien invasion, right, whatever it is, that we will not have the knowledge to confront that. We will not have the civilizational wealth to mobilize that knowledge in order to confront that. And the only way to prepare for the unknown is to expand our breadth of knowledge, to increase our ability to mobilize that knowledge that is wealth and technology. Okay, let's say that I've convinced you that this is a good idea, that we should grow, that we should expand, that we're better off as this heroic, multiplanetary, conquering civilization than, a bunch of that sit around on Earth and wait for all of our resources to get depleted. We are meant to grow, to expand, to accelerate. How do we do it? How do we achieve this techno-capital or homo techno-capital acceleration? Well, basically, that is our tendency already. So all we have to do is get out of our own way. And that means not allow people to concentrate power and dictate the way others should develop technology and allocate their capital. We should avoid central planning and top-down regulation, and we should encourage variance in ideas, variance in the allocation of capital. We should encourage variance in the way people develop technologies, right? We shouldn't try to centralize things. And of course, that doesn't mean that there's going to be no regulation. In fact, there are times, just like life creates more entropy by increasing order in a local space, right? There might be regulations that help us accelerate by, creating boundaries for growth, right? So that doesn't mean that there's no regulation, but it does mean that we can have faith in the market to self-organize around fruitful avenues of techno-capital acceleration. So what should you personally do if you believe in humanity's mission to conquer the stars, to follow the thermodynamic imperative, right? To build space stations and Dyson spheres and to mine asteroids and to be everything that we can be. If you believe in that, what can you do today? Well, you don't have to join a group. You don't have to donate to anything. All you have to do is build something. Build something useful for other people. The market will reward you for it, but build something. It is easier to build than ever before, whether we're talking about building with electrons by coding with LLMs or building with atoms, right? Our supply chains, our robotics, everything is more powerful than it's ever been. And everything is set up more than ever for individuals to build. We have access to unlimited information and incredible technology. So build. Okay, I'm running out of steam here, but I want to tell you what I'm going to be doing with this channel, and that's going to be interviewing people who build on the subject of building, people who build solutions in the real world whose ideas I think are really cool, and I want to help them spread their ideas to everyone else, and I want to continue to spread the message of accelerationism, of growth, and of humanity's infinite potential. And I want that to be infectious. I want that to inspire people to build more with less fear, with more optimism for humanity's future. I want you to love humanity. I love humanity. I think we're fucking awesome. And the more people feel that way about us, the better it'll be. There's this idea of like hyperstition, right? A belief that manifests itself in reality when enough people believe it. And this kind of belief is what optimism is. Effective accelerationism is a hyperstitious belief. So we need more people to believe it so that it becomes a reality, so that we conquer the universe. We can't, it's like all these professional athletes say, you got to believe you're the best first. We have to believe that it is our destiny to conquer the universe, or else we'll never do it. We'll be afraid we'll hamstring ourselves. We got to do it. Let's accelerate.